WECT News and weather apps. Great tools, of course, there to help you follow the storm. And here's the news I really am concerned about. It's the forward movement of the storm right now, west-northwest at about 5 miles per hour. So this storm is essentially crawling at this point. And as we've been talking about for days now, this storm is running into a big high-pressure ridge, which is now parked back here across the Ohio Valley. And there's another high-pressure ridge which is pushing it. And the net effect is the high offshore is pushing the storm this way. This high-pressure ridge is pushing the storm this way. And the net result is the storm is going to slow to nearly a crawl, likely over the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's why we're talking about this prolonged period of the storm hanging around the area. And of course, the forecast track continues to show this thought pattern. You can see just the storm slowly crawling across southeastern North Carolina. You can see by Friday afternoon, maybe if we're lucky, it's maybe somewhere in the vicinity of Brunswick County. That's how slow it's going to be crawling. Remember, right now the storm is located maybe about 80 miles or so off our coast, and by a little less than 24 hours from now, it's probably somewhere in the vicinity of Brunswick County. It's still in southeastern North Carolina. It will continue to be a relentless pounding over the next couple of days. And then finally by Saturday, we think the storm starts to drift maybe back more towards Myrtle Beach, but that won't be great either, because at that point we'll be on the northern eye wall of the storm, and we will continue to see our beaches get pounded. High tide after high tide cycle, day after day. Remember, right now we're kind of at lower tide. We're starting to ramp back up towards high tide. High tides on most of our beaches tonight running between 11 p.m. and midnight, and that's when we're probably going to really start to see some water rises. I'd really watch particularly some of our northern beaches, Surf City and Topsail Beach. We're going to have to really watch those beaches very closely here as we get towards the high tide cycles late tonight. That's where we might start to see our first real signs of some real serious damage, and it's going to take days and days. Eventually the storm will get a turn and finally make its way out towards the Ohio Valley. But again, one of the headlines at this hour, little bit of minor strengthening with Hurricane Florence back up to 105 mile per hour sustained winds, as we are starting to see a little bit of a burst in convection right near the center of the storm. Now, as we go ahead and move on here, we can get our maps to move here. I think, are we on maximum? There we go. Live view, this is a battleship camera looking into downtown Wilmington. We've had a pretty good rain burst pushing across the area. And I was looking offshore. There are actually some very intense rain bands just off the coast that are going to be moving into the area over the next couple of hours. So most of what we're seeing right now is fairly light. These rain bands right here probably have some winds 50, maybe 60 miles per hour. And you can still see we're quite a ways from the center of the storm, which will continue to edge maybe in the 4 to 5 mile per hour range, very close to our coastline here as we head to the rest of tonight. And probably by sometime, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the storm will start to get very close to Wrightsville Beach. Probably tomorrow morning especially, we'll probably start to get into the eye wall, particularly in maybe Pender County and New Hanover County. Tomorrow morning could be a really rough ride as we really start to get into that part of the storm. But right now we estimate the center of the storm, or the eye of this hurricane, is about 80 miles away. The heavy rain bands in Bladen County starting to push through. You can see some of the heaviest bands now making their way into Robinson County. So Lumberton, you're about to get hit with a pretty heavy rain band, probably some 40 mile per hour winds with this particular rain band. That extends into western Columbus County, just to the east of Tabor City. So Tabor City, you're about to get hit right now with some heavier rain, and then that extends down into Horry County. As we said, these bands right here, we're going to have to start to watch these ones. These bands probably the next level up with maybe some 50 and 60 mile per hour winds. Rainfall, rainfall, rainfall. First, danger number one, of course, as we talked about the storm surge, that piling of the water onto our beaches, onto the intercoastal waterway, and eventually maybe into some of the estuaries. Even there, if you're anywhere near one of those estuaries, we would advise you to go to WECT.com, check out the storm surge map. You can literally zoom down pretty close to your neighborhood and you can see what your danger is. And again, you just have to really be prepared for that. But danger number two, right there it is. We've been telling you all week the potential of 1 to 2 feet of rain. And there it is. European computer model, one of our favorite computer models, now has almost exactly 2 feet of rain in the forecast for Wilmington. So I'm afraid that particular nightmare is going to come true. With the slow movement of the storm, it would totally make sense. And if you happen to get a heavy rain band, or maybe some extra heavy rain bands sitting over your area, 2 feet could even be exceeded. So there it is. This is our official forecast, still saying widespread 1 to 2 feet of rain across the area. That will cause low visibility, lots of low land flooding. Low-lying areas are going to be a total nightmare here over the next couple of days. And now we're starting to get a picture of the river implications as well. We now expect moderate to major flooding across most of our rivers, particularly the Northeast Cape Fear River. Looks like a very dangerous situation, as we could be talking about the latest projections we saw, 24 feet potentially for the Northeast Cape Fear River as we head towards Tuesday. Just for perspective right now, it's running at about 3 feet. 24 feet now the forecast, and and that would exceed the record of 22.5 feet. And at least some moderate flooding as we look at the Cape Fear River in Bladen County. Only reason it probably won't be as bad there is, remember, you're upstream, the rainfall totals won't be quite as impressive, and the Lumber River in Lumberton also has the potential of having some major flooding as well. So rivers are something we're going to be watching a lot, especially once this storm passes by. Hour-by-hour forecast, there's the eye, about 80 miles from the coast. You can see it is expected to drift westward here by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. You can see the storm probably just now at that point making its way to front. So it's going to take 24 hours to move the storm from about 70 or 80 miles offshore into Brunswick County. That's how slow the storm is moving. So that's going to be just the relentless pounding. And at that point, we're not really in much better shape, because at that point, we're on the northeastern side of the storm, the most intense part of the storm, tomorrow night, 24 hours from now. So again, we just can't emphasize how tough of a situation this is. Finally, by Saturday, the storm's drifting maybe more into South Carolina, and maybe we start to see a little bit of a let-up here as we head towards Saturday evening. But again, it's going to be a very slow process to wind everything down. And the storm surge forecast, still think that pounding on the east-facing beaches, Curie Beach, Carolina Beach, Rhinesville Beach, probably at least 7, maybe as much as 10 or 11 feet of storm surge potentially from that big wall of water pushing onto the coast. And at this point, remember, the storm is not weakening anymore. It could be strengthening a little bit, which is not what we want to see with the storm getting closer to our coast.
Hello, my friends.
That much big. Some going to see minor fluctuations in strength, but any strengthening is certainly not welcome at this point. Brunswick County beaches, you're looking at about 4 to 8 feet of storm surge, and just 4%. Friday, Saturday, maybe even into Sunday, potentially. We could be talking about 3-4 days, solid days of heavy rainfall across the area. Damaging winds certainly ramping up through the rest of tonight, but Friday and Saturday in particular are probably going to be the worst in terms of the damaging winds. Storm surge, bad now, but once we get on the bad side of the storm on Friday and Saturday, it will be even worse than what we're seeing right now. Remember, we're still in places like Carolina Beach and Curie Beach. Remember, we're still on the backside of the storm, and it's near low tide. Just imagine what it's going to look like when we're on the bad side of the storm and we're near high tide. It's not going to be a good picture out there, and also the potential of some isolated tornadoes as well. Quick look at your 7-day forecast. We've got Florence impacts tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, even probably on Sunday. We're still going to be talking about Florence in some shape or form, still bringing rain to the area, so it's going to be a slow process to wind the storm down as it finally drifts down into South Carolina. But some of the scattered thunderstorm threat and maybe even the tornado threat continues into the early part of next week.
All right, thanks so much, Eric. I want to mention this quickly. Just got an email from someone who's watching us in Canada, very complimentary of our coverage, but wanted to say, please remind your viewers that if they are located in the hurricane-affected areas, they will likely not be able to communicate once the lights go off and the cell phone towers fail. And that's a very good point. We mentioned that much earlier, but always good to remind you because for some people, they will lose all forms of communication.
And it's good to take a look at the upper right hand of your cell phone and see how how you're doing on battery power, and get it in there, get it charged, and keep it as fully charged, because at one point in time, once the power does go out, unless you have one of those portable little chargers or something, or a generator in the house, yeah, you may not be able to get it fully charged. And and something that I learned from one of our stories that we did earlier this week is that sending somebody a text doesn't take nearly as much battery power as some of the other functions on a smartphone. So sending somebody a text using the phone lines is a little less power. You're able to still communicate, but not really kind of drain the battery as much.
Right. And someone also recommended that you leave on your voicemail a message that says where you are and that you're doing fine, so that if they call and they can't get through to you, they'll get your voicemail that says you are wherever you are and that you are okay.
That's a great idea. I hadn't heard that. That's a great idea.
Isn't it?
Good reminder.
All right, let's check in now with Kaylee Tracy. She's in Columbus County right now at a shelter. So how are things looking there?
Fran and John, I am actually at the Whiteville Fire Department, the Emergency Operations Center here. The rain has kind of come in bands. It's little spurts of it. Right before, while Eric was talking during weather, we had almost a downpour here, and then the winds are picking up a little bit, but still not a complete, washout out here yet. The clouds we can see moving through here, and then they actually brought in, the Whiteville Fire Department brought in the High Point Fire Department and the Kernsville Fire Department to get ready for this storm. They're back here kind of bonding, playing cornhole right now while things are slow, but they are getting ready. And earlier today we went out to Fair Bluff. As many of our viewers know, they were hit pretty hard with Matthew.